rainfall as we go through this upcoming evening. With your Storm Track 3 forecast, I'm meteorologist Rana Williams.
Excited for another night full of couch rot? No judgment here. Don't get up. Just tell your smart speaker to play
97.5 and 1240 KFH. Kansas fan headquarters, 97.5 and 1240 KFH Wichita. KNSS HD2 Clearwater, an Odyssey sports station.
Hey Wichita, it's Jacob Albrock. Stay right there for the latest breaking in sports talk. It's Sports Daily coming up next exclusively on 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
I'm Omar Reese with NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network. The Bengals announcing they've placed their franchise tag on receiver T. Higgins for the second straight season. The two sides have until July 15th to get a long-term deal done. Otherwise, Higgins' salary will be more than $26 million in 2025. Bengals Director of Player Personnel Duke Tobin said at the NFL Scouting Combine last week that he believes the team could re-sign Higgins and extend Jamar Chase, as well as Trey Hendrickson. Meanwhile, the Eagles are releasing six-time Pro Bowl cornerback Darius Slay just weeks after winning the Super Bowl. The 34-year-old says he does want to play one more year in the NFL. With the first overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Titans are set to host several top prospects in the coming weeks. Edge rusher Abdul Carter visits Thursday, followed by quarterback Cam Ward on Friday. Shedeur Sanders will visit next Monday with Travis Hunter, meeting at a later date. This has been NFL Network Now on the Westwood One Radio Network.
All right, when it comes to getting life insurance for your family, a lot of excuses can get in the way. But ask yourself this: if something were to happen to me, who would pay the mortgage, the kids' education, and the other bills? Then forget the excuses and check out Ethos Life, the online, easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes. Ethos has rates that you can afford, like a $500,000 policy for a 40-year-old male starting at $1 a day or $30 a month with a few health questions and no medical exam. Get your free quote right now at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com. Not available in all states. Rates do vary.
Retired or retiring soon? How much money do you need to live comfortably? Retirement Planners of America is here for you. Would you like to have financial peace of mind? Here's how. Step 1. Find out the amount of money you'll need to retire. Step 2, have a plan to get there. Step 3, make sure that plan can take advantage of market gains but protect you from market losses. Discover how to do all three with a free consultation at 800-508-6108. That's 800-508-6108.
All investments involve risk, including losses. Past performance does not guarantee future results.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome in, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you. Dadgummit, we didn't get it done on either front last night for KU or the Shockers. We'll dig into both. Good games. Felt like March Madness a little bit to me last night, watching two games at one time. They're both coming down to the wire. You're seeing, good teams play. So that was kind of fun. But, of course, the outcome, not as fun. We'll get into both of those. Jacob Albrock here alongside Tommy Castor. Max Power producing for us. He's manning the KFH hotline at 869-1240, which you can call if you're listening to us right now on 97.5 FM or 1240 AM. You can also leave us video comments if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or X, of course, watching us on 12 News Connected. And you can leave us your voice messages if you're listening to us on the Odyssey app. There's a little microphone right there on your phone. You just push that little microphone. You can leave us a message. We can actually take those over the air. So those are pretty cool. We'll give away some HTO today. We'll give you a free iced tea, an opportunity to win one, I should say. So stay tuned for your opportunity there. Our Chiefs Insider Felix Johnson will join us in just a little while. The Chiefs with a couple of meaningful news items. How does that impact the rest of the offseason? We'll get into all of it today. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Man, hey, happy Tuesday. But like you mentioned, a couple big games last night. Neither Wichita State or Kansas could get it done. But as you mentioned, very entertaining games, and looking forward to talking all about it this morning.
Yeah, I don't feel bad either way for either program. I don't feel any different, I don't think, about what happens next week, which for the Shockers is, mission critical, a little less so for KU perhaps, but, KU, we're just continuing to look for what are their chances to do something in March? And we continue to see them be right there at the end of games. Now, they can't get it done, which is a problem, but they're right there at Houston, which is as tough a place there has been to play in college basketball over the last couple of years. So there is a lot to dig through. I don't know, Tommy. I mean, are you feeling any less encouraged? I feel like encouraged is probably a good word for the last 2 weeks, maybe a little longer for the Shockers. I don't feel any less encouraged, I don't think, for either team based on those performances last night. They were both pretty heavy underdogs in those games, rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for Wichita State, no, I don't feel any less encouraged. I think that it's a situation with the Shockers where, you've had obviously this brutal stretch of really, really, really tough games, and they started off that stretch really well. You know what? You come back down to earth a little bit when you play UAB and then you play North Texas. It's really hard to keep that magic up, the entire time. I think the Shockers are right about where we thought they would be going into this stretch. I mean, obviously, you'll take the big wins against Memphis, obviously, against Tulane, and so forth. But I mean, I think that the last 2 games have shown that they're not quite where, we thought they might be at the very beginning of the season necessarily, but they've come back down to earth slightly, but it doesn't mean that they're all the way down. I think they're in a good position, at least with momentum. The final 2 games of the regular season coming up against teams that they should beat, and then that should help propel them into the conference tournament. So, yeah, I mean, you would have loved to steal one on the road at North Texas last night. The way they've been playing, I think that we all thought they were capable of doing so. It was a really, really good game, really good matchup back and forth, especially in the second half. But at the end of the day, now you've got to look in front of you and not in your rearview mirror, and you've got Rice and Tulsa to close out the season. It's a busy week. I mean, remember, they've got Rice in just a couple of days, and then Tulsa right after that. Like, they play 3 games in 1 week, so you got to shake this one off, get back home, and be ready to play Rice and Tulsa.
Yeah, I think that's the asterisk, right? As long as they play well against these next 2 opponents, then it's not discouraging at all. Because last night, when you look at it, like, they had every opportunity. They had a blunder at the end of the game, we'll get into, where they didn't even get a shot off. But I mean, they had every opportunity to take that game to overtime, to maybe win that game. And that's against North Texas, who's really good and really good defensively on the road, like a true road game. You don't have to play them there if you play them again. So you feel good about that, right? Kind of the same thing. You can beat Memphis. They can beat North Texas. Is North Texas good enough to beat them 3 times in one season? That's kind of the way you got to look at that. So everything is about how they're playing heading into that conference tournament. And there was a time not that long ago, Tommy, where we would have said no chance to win a conference tournament and get into the NCAA tournament, whereas now they absolutely have a chance. Can they put it together 4 or 5 times or whatever it will take to get through the AAC tournament? It's going to be tough, but at least we know they have the ability to do it. KU's sort of the same way at a much larger scale, right? KU just went down to Houston, and we'll dig into the X's and O's in our next segment, but they just went down to Houston, and now for the second time this year, almost took down my favorite team in the country right now. My March 4th pick to win a national championship right now, Houston. And they were right there. And there were a lot of little things that could have gone one way or the other. KU didn't get the benefit of a good call right there on the road. That's a true road game. And I know KU fans are upset about that, but that's a true road game. What do you expect? You're not going to get calls down there. No chance you get calls down there. So you got to play through it. Guess what? You don't have to play them down there the next time, right? Neutral courts. After they finish up, it's neutral courts the rest of the way. And so, yeah, look, I know KU fans are discouraged big picture right now with the way this season has gone. KU can win probably any game they play. I don't know about Duke right now, who's on fire, but they beat Duke, right? Like, they can beat anybody. And so will they, can they? The chances aren't good because they can't do it consistently. But again, you see their ability to do it. So it's kind of the same thing as Wichita State, just at a much, 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 much higher, much much more pressure intense scale, I think, but the capability is at least there. When after the Utah trip, it was like, are they even going to, they're going to get run out of the gym by some of these teams. And they didn't, right? They showed themselves okay last night.
I think it's semantics, really, because I don't agree with you that they can beat anybody. I think I agree with you that they can compete with anybody, that they can hang with anybody. But we haven't seen, since obviously the Iowa State game. That's really kind of the anomaly. That's the exception. At least in conference play, you have to go all the way back to November to see them beat a really high quality opponent. And so I think that knowing that, sure, it's encouraging that they didn't get boat raced by Houston. I was concerned about that. I thought it was going to be a 20-point loss, for the Jayhawks. So yeah, it's encouraging that they competed with Houston last night. Sure. So I wouldn't go so far to say they can beat anybody, but I sure think that they can compete with anybody. And they showed that last night against Houston. They showed, they showed that when they played Texas Tech over the weekend at home. They competed with Texas Tech. The struggle has been being clutch enough when you're playing a really elite opponent to be able to find a way to win. And that's been a hallmark of Bill Self teams over the years, finding a way to win against really elite opponents. This team doesn't have that kind of DNA. At least they haven't shown that. So I'm not willing to go so far to say they can beat anybody in the tournament, but they certainly can compete.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe even more technical than DNA, but we've got a lot to talk about. Let's do that next with KU. Stick around, Sports Daily. Thanks to Prairie Fire Coffee for keeping us fueled up this morning. We'll be right back.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
310-01 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Glad to be here with you on KFH. It is a Tuesday, and when you're on your way to work and want to keep listening to Sports Daily, even after you park the car, with the Odyssey app and Odyssey.com, you can just download the app, visit Odyssey.com, search for KFH, download the Odyssey app today to get started. We get started with KU last night, Tommy. Another game, another close game with Houston. It was on the road. They were right there. They had their opportunities. They couldn't make plays late, which has been a trend lately, right? They're in these games, but they can't finish it off. I think there is, and I've gone a little back and forth with you mentioned the DNA sometimes to close these games out, and I agree. We've talked about that a lot this year, but I also think there might be just a roster deficiency that has become a little clearer in finishing these games, and that's that the guard play has been inconsistent, right? And that's a big part of finishing games is do you have somebody you can trust to either come down and take that shot? Like, you're not going to finish a game getting the ball in the post to Hunter Dickinson. And if you do, you're ripe for error, right? Trying to get that done, especially when the other team knows it's coming, for turnovers and all these things. And when we look at that game yesterday, I text you. There was a point in that game, and even we'll take it further. Kansas turned the ball over 20 times in that game, Tommy. Houston only scored 65 points. You're talking about one of the best basketball teams in the country right now, only scored 65 points when Kansas gave it to them 20 times. That's how good defensively Kansas is and can be. But they just are not good enough offensively. And so, that's to me, that is so crazy. And this turnover thing has been a problem. Whenever before, I'm going to take this before the last handful of games. We know they turned it over too much against Tech too. whether they're winning or losing doesn't really matter. They're turning it over about 14 times a game through that rough stretch. I'm just pulling up Texas Tech here real quick. That was only 10 turnovers, so I stand corrected. They actually did a decent job taking care of the basketball against Tech. But then therein lies this other issue, Tommy. In that game, they took far better care of the basketball, but they almost allowed 80. And we'll remember Tech in the first half hitting 10 threes and all the things that they did. But typically yesterday, I think, is what we should expect out of Kansas defensively, which is that. I mean, they were really good defensively yesterday. They made it really hard on Houston.
I don't know if they were really good defensively. I mean, they were better. They were better defensively. They were able to muck the game up, but Houston only turned the ball over 6 times. I mean, Houston won the turnover battle 20-6. So I don't know if I want to say that Kansas's defense was really good. It was fine.
They weren't good at turning them over, obviously.
Right, but keep in mind too, Houston has the number 1 defense in America.
Right.
They've got the number 1 defense in the country, and they showed that they were more physical. They were able to turn over Kansas big time. And they really, really disrupted. You mentioned the guard play. They disrupted the guard play for the Jayhawks. This is crazy. And I know you mentioned the turnover stat. Was probably the main stat to focus on after the game. And I don't disagree with you. But on top of that, the starting guards for the Jayhawks, we're talking Zeke Mayo, Rylan Griffin, DeJuan Harris. The 3 of them last night combined for 9 points and 9 turnovers. That's not going to get it done against a team like Houston. That's not going to get it done against anybody, but Houston did a really good job of making it extremely difficult for the guards for Kansas to get anything done. And you compare and contrast that to the guard play from the Cougars and what they were able to do in the game. The starting guards for Houston combined for 42 points and only 2 turnovers. So they shot the ball well. The guards did for Houston, and they didn't turn the ball over either. It was a tale of 2 cities, between when you're comparing the guard play from one team to the other. I would go even further than just saying that the guard play has been inconsistent for Kansas. It's been really bad for the Jayhawks. And that doesn't work. It doesn't work when you need to win a close game. You need a bucket late in the game. And I feel bad for Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams because both of those guys had really great games. And, those performances were, kind of wasted because the guard play couldn't get it done for the Jayhawks.
Dickinson's game was weird. Almost half the turnovers were his responsibility. Like he looked really good offensively. His energy was good, but man, and that's uncharacteristic of him for all the things that we say about Hunter Dickinson. Him not taking care of the ball or him not being sharp and crisp in passing was a little odd. And I think honestly, it's probably something Kelvin Sampson, who might be the best in-game coach in the country right now, probably targeted that a little bit. If I had to really I would need a basketball person to go back and watch the tape, but I'll bet you money Houston made a concerted effort to force turnovers against Hunter Dickinson, which he did. Now Dickinson was, he was solid. And I thought, for a guy who gets a lot of grief, I thought he brought the energy and did all those things. It's weird. KU their strength is their bigs, right? We know that. It's Dickinson, it's Adams or Badunga, it's whatever it is. That's where they're going to live. And that's been for 2 years now. They haven't been able to get that offense. I think if we're looking at stuff to take away from that and to move forward, Diggy Coit's got to be out there just because he's got stones, right? Just because he's not scared. And he'll take shots and he'll fire away and he'll get in there. And yes, he's outsized every time he's out there, but at least the dude has the attitude to try to go get buckets. He's got to have more minutes. He needs to be, whether you want to call it a starter. I don't know if they're going to start 3-point guards, although they played 3-point guards much of the game. I don't care what it is. That guy has to have more minutes because he's got the killer instinct. And really, of the guard position,
he's the only one that has the killer instinct.
Yeah,
right now, he's the only one.
And you got to play it for that reason. He's got to be out there. So I don't know if
that, by the way, we talked about this yesterday. You contrast that with the way that Texas Tech guards played in that game at Allen Fieldhouse. You contrast that with the way the guards for Houston, specifically LJ Cryer, even though he was in foul trouble in the second half, the way that the guards played for Houston. Those guys are clutch, right? Those guys, when their respective teams needed a bucket, those guys had the killer instinct. And you're searching up and down the roster for Kansas, who can get a shot when you need it most? And really, I mean, Coit is about the only one that at least right now you even feel halfway comfortable giving him the ball and telling him, hey, go get a bucket. We need it really bad.
It's going to have to be him. I mean, I'd love for it to be Griffin. It's not. Zeke Mayo is streaky, right? So if he's feeling it, great. But oftentimes he's not feeling
It's
it.
not DeJuan Harris.
It's
It
not
never
DeJuan
really
Harris.
has been DeJuan Harris.
No, it's not DeJuan Harris. DeJuan Harris doesn't even attack anymore. Like I think a part of the problem offensively is it's so, and we've talked, I mean, goodness, this has been a debate forever. Like DeJuan Harris and KJ Adams just are not, they're non-threats offensively. Now they're both really good defensively, right? They're both, so you got to give and take a little bit, but the other team, when the other team just knows they're not going to do anything with it offensively. And KJ Adams, I thought I thought he's played really well lately. I really
He
do.
made it to the line a lot last night, and
He's
really
been really good. But in your base offense, like those two aren't a threat, and so it makes it hard on Dickinson. 7 turnovers, right? It makes it hard on really anybody to have to try to get their shot. I don't know, and I don't know what you can do about that, because I do want their defense out there. I think their defense is their floor, sort of is their base level. And I think the thing that will give them chances or opportunities to beat anybody that they play, but you also have to be able to score. And that's the chess part of it that, man, I don't know what Bill Self's supposed to do, because you do have to, like, you have to keep a game like that against a team like that close. And you do that through defense, but it's just, offense is going to be really difficult to come by when you have to do it that way, which has been their problem for 2 years now. And I don't, that's why. So then you go bigger picture, right? And everybody in the conversations, and I'm having them last night too, and I'm sure you are too, with a lot of KU fans who are like concerned that it's not going to work in the transfer portal era with Bill Self. And, is he going to be able to coach these kinds of players the right way? And I think it's far too early for that. I mean, technically speaking, he has won a national title in the transfer portal era, right? Remy Martin, remember, was the prize portal guy that year. Now, that was a weird path that year for Martin, but by the end of it, they got what they needed out of him. That team was much better offensively. But I still think I'm still leaning. They've had 2 years of the same problem. I got to give coach a reset opportunity, because the same thing that plagued them, while they're more talented this year, the same thing that plagued them, the same things plague them again this year. I think they're far better equipped to win tournament games this year, all of that stuff. But it's the same issues we saw a year ago, Tommy. They just can't generate any offense outside of Dickinson consistently. This year's team will be better defensively. I do think it was interesting. Bill Self said after the game, and I don't have the quotes in front of me, but basically, like, he felt good about the locker room. He felt good about the energy. I think we're past all that to our conversation yesterday. And that's very encouraging as you give them sort of a chip in a chair mentality in the NCAA basketball tournament, that at least their heads seem to be in the right place. Now it's more of a question of X's and O's wise, can they get it done, which is going to be challenging, but again, chip in a chair, right?
Yeah, I don't think that the way that this team is constructed and the way that the offense runs and what we've seen, especially from the guard play, from an X's and O's mentality, I don't see them having the firepower to be able to get much done. Yeah, maybe they win their first game in the NCAA tournament, but depending on where they're seated, they could, very easily match up against a top 3 or 4 seed in the second round. And that's the kind of team that they faced lately. Like, you look at Texas Tech, like, that's them. Houston's going to be a 1 or a 2, but still, regardless of that, like, you're going to be facing teams that can shoot the lights out of the basketball. And if you're going to try to match them with twos, you're not going to win many of those games. You've got to have some kind of threat from long distance, and they do not have that consistently. Diggy Coit's the best, I guess, opportunity to be able to get that done, but he doesn't really see the court a ton. And so I agree with you. That needs to shift and change, as the next couple of weeks roll on. I just think that, as I've watched a lot of these other teams in the country, and the best teams in the country, they're all teams, for the most part, that have at least some kind of element of a shot creation, shot making, clutch mentality guard threat. They all do. Like, I can't think of a team that doesn't have that. Obviously, Duke has that. We know Auburn has that. We know Houston has that. Like, the top teams in the country. I mean, I watched Alabama and Tennessee over the weekend, and it was kind of just like a punch, counter punch type thing back and forth between these two great teams. Like, one would, set up a play and hit an open three, and then the other one would go down and match them. That's not the kind of game that Kansas has. And so you're, going to run down, you're going to, run your offense. You're going to play inside out with Dickinson. And everybody knows, we talked about this so many times before, everybody knows that the offense is going to run through Hunter Dickinson, that the defense can just collapse on top of you. And it leads to a couple of different things. It leads to, obviously, we saw Dickinson turn the ball over too much last night because there was so much attention on him. He had the ball so much. But number two, it causes him to get worn out, and then he's not getting rebounds, and Houston out-rebounds the Jayhawks big time in that game. And he's tired, and he's gassed because he's getting the ball basically every single possession. He's the only offensive threat. So knowing all of that from an X's and O's perspective, I haven't seen really a whole lot lately that would indicate to me that, they're going to be able to really make much noise in the NCAA tournament, just because everything is like the way they run their offense is so different, and the makeup of this team is so different than all the top teams in the country.
So the only team, to your point, that I can remember that did well what Kansas is going to have to try to do is Virginia in 23. They were offensively challenged.
They were horrible offensively.
Yes.
And that's the way that Tony Bennett coached his team. Like,
right.
Try to hold them under 40 points and, call it good.
But they got on a tournament run that way. Now, that essentially that same philosophy and idea got them bounced, remember, the year before in the historic loss. So I do feel like there's a little of that here. And like, they're good enough, again, to hang with anybody they play because they'll defend well enough to sort of be there in the end. But at the same time, you get a team that comes out and shoots well, you're kind of screwed, which happens in the tournament. So it's like, it's going to be luck of the draw. We know that, but it's just going to be like every game they play should and can feel a lot like the last two that they've played. When you talk about them playing really high level teams, which is them being there throughout the game and having a chance. Can they make enough big plays late? Can they not turn the ball over late? Can they do those things? Well, I mean, yeah, they're capable, but they haven't been doing it lately. But just like if you're looking for, and I get like the overall optimism for the program and all, that's never going to be there in what will be the worst regular season they've had in the Bill Self era, right? It's not going to be there. It's not going to be all sunshine and roses. It doesn't have to be, though, for when the tournament rolls around to just be engaged enough to say, all right, can they muck this up enough to have a chance at the end of a game? Can they're not going to take a ton of threes. I don't, when was the last time they even took a ton of threes? They're not going to do that.
That's not who they are.
Right. So it's going to have to be one of the guards is playing really well, probably Mayo or Coit. And then you get your baseline offense out of Hunter Dickinson and KJ Adams. I mean, that's it. And with a combination of, you got to be able to defend. Do you think that they lose something defensively with Diggy Coit playing a ton of minutes? I think
probably.
They probably do, but I think they can cover it up too. I thought he tried, like his effort defensively was fantastic last night, but there were times where he was just outmatched physically. So that'll be something to watch because they do have to have his offense, but he's not going to put their best defensive lineup out there.
I mean, this is a team like, just the stats of this game are just wild to me.
Wild.
Like when you really break down the team stats, the fact that Houston took 26 more shots than the Jayhawks did in that game, 26 more shots. Kansas had a better field goal percentage though. They had a better 3-point percentage.
One of my favorite stats.
They had a better free throw percentage. Like they had but Houston had so many second chance opportunities. They got the offensive rebounds. They turned Kansas over. Like all of that, just wild to me that you're looking at a better field goal percentage, a better 3-point percentage, all of that, but 26 more shot attempts for the Cougars. Like it's just insane.
Well, it's the turnovers that led to that too, because Kansas,
it was a 6-point game at the end of it. Like,
right. Kansas had
been right out of the building.
Kansas had a good rebounding game, but when you turn it over to them and they take that many more opportunities, what are you going to do?
They had a good defensive rebounding game.
Right.
They didn't get hardly anything on the
offensively, but they were right there. They weren't dominated on the boards, right? Houston had a bunch of offensive rebounds, but when you look at how many more shots they took, that's to be expected to some degree. That was my favorite stat of the night last night, by the way, the one you just said. I'm glad you said it. But yeah, Houston's awesome. Houston's so good. Kansas it is what it is. Like, guys, I don't like, it is what it is. They could win some games in the Big 12 tournament. That matters less now, probably. You'd like to see him win on senior night, of course, to sort of stop the small bleeding here. But it's all about the NCAA tournament, and it's all about matchups first, obviously. Yeah. Like, you want to see him play teams that don't shoot the three well, but can they just make a couple of plays that can lead to wins?
Quick bracketology note. USA Today this morning updated their bracketology. They have Kansas as an 8 seed this morning.
Okay. I said they're not going to a 9. I thought 8 was the worst. So we'll see, because they got a tough one coming up again. All right, we'll talk Shockers when we return. Don't go away. More Sports Daily right after this.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB Overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
83101 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
KFH.
Your legend begins aboard the Disney Destiny, the all-new ship from Disney Cruise Line, sailing November 2025. Log in and listen to KFH on Odyssey for a chance to win a trip for 4 to set sail on the Disney Destiny in this national contest. All you need to do is listen for an hour on the Odyssey app. Find out more at kfhradio.com. Welcome back into Sports Daily, everybody. Jacob Albrocht and Tommy Castor. Before we talk Shockers, excuse me, Tommy, just to give you an idea of how all over the map KU's postseason destiny is. You mentioned USA Today has them as an 8. Jerry Palm has them as a 6 still, which is wild. That's a big discrepancy. Yeah. We'll see. Joe Lenardi hasn't put his out, and I didn't watch last night. I know he was on talking about it after the game. I didn't stay up for that. So his haven't been put out yet this week. But as we look at Jerry Palms, who he's always as close as anybody, right now in Wichita, he's got us looking at Houston. I'm just going to give you some of the more high profile names here. Houston, Gonzaga, A&M, Arizona, Vanderbilt would be a good draw right now, according to Jerry Palm. We'll get some good fan bases, most notably Houston, Arizona, and Gonzaga. You could expect those teams to show up well. So that's what's out there with that. Let's talk Shockers here, Tommy. North Texas last night, Wichita State, dadgummit, kind of like KU has done a lot lately. Couldn't get that final shot off. They sort of fumbled it with a chance to either tie it or take the lead late. Inspired effort. They came out and they didn't, they sort of stumbled out of the gates a little bit, but they did a nice job. Like they turned North Texas over plenty. Xavier Bell sort of lit the spark offensively in the second half. It wasn't a Corey Washington game as much as I thought it might be, but Harlan Beverly picked up that slack. I really wish they could have got a good shot off at the end of that game. That'd have been nice to see him get a shot at a buzzer beater or something like that. But all in all, like again, night and day from when this team was playing poorly. And as you said off the top, you just have to be really careful and make sure that the next 2 games now, after you've had really nice performances and losses, and we don't want to give like participation prizes here, but when we're trying to evaluate their chances in the conference tournament, isn't that what we're looking at, right? Are they hanging with the top teams no matter where they play? So when they play them on a neutral court, they can take their shot in the conference tournament. I think the answer to that is yes, but now they need to go flex a little bit in these next 2 games.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the hallmark, the calling card of this team when things were really bad for them in January was they were losing to inferior opponents.
Yeah.
You're playing 2 inferior opponents in your final 2 regular season games in Rice and Tulsa, 2 teams that are beneath you in the conference standings. You've got to have better showings against them. You've got to be able to flex a little bit, put them away, and show that you are, demonstrably better than they are, decisively better than they are. And that was a huge issue early in the conference season, and the main reason why this team started off the conference season 1-7, and they had to claw their way back to 500. They can still finish at 500 in conference play if they can get both of these games to wrap up the regular season. But you've got to be able to shake off the UAB game. You've got to be able to shake off the game last night and get back to work against two teams that you should beat. Going back to last night's game, I know you mentioned his name briefly, but Harlan Beverly had an incredible game. He was great. He didn't play well, didn't play much against UAB, but he was able to bounce back and played fantastic. 16 points on 7 of 12 shooting in 27 minutes off the bench, and really was a key factor alongside Xavier Bell in keeping the Shockers in the game, allowing them to keep it close in the second half, be able to take the lead at a couple of different points in the second half as well. So hats off to him. I was concerned after the UAB game that, he kind of looked off and he wasn't, quite all there. Like, is this a trend? Are we seeing him trending downward? It was good to see him have a bounce back performance.
And it's good to see Wichita State be able to just sort of, at least offensively, do it in different ways, because, you don't always know about that. And I think it speaks to some degree to the vibe of the program right now. Like, if you look back, if you even go back to the UAB game, it was a very different offensive sort of game. You had all the offense for Wichita State in that game coming down low and then chucking a bunch of threes, which was not good, right? Well, okay, you go to North Texas, they only took 7 threes last night. And it wasn't Corey Washington or Quincy Ballard doing much of anything offensively. They still didn't take a bunch of threes, which I thought was interesting. It's just good to see this team be, I guess, versatile. And it's good to see that, in some games where Harlan Beverly doesn't do much, he's able to do that night. In a game where Corey Washington has led them so often offensively, he didn't do much last night, but they're still collectively, right, rowing in the same direction. And I think that they absolutely are. And I do think that matters a great deal. I think you always wonder if teams get lost in college basketball, and they had every opportunity during that 6-game losing streak or whatever it was, 7-game. They had every opportunity to get lost this season and just say, you know what, to hell with it. Like, this isn't, but they never did that. And it's continued now when they're just playing better, quite frankly, where they can do it in different ways. And I think that's good to see. It was interesting. If you missed it last week, we had on Kevin Saul. And I think the fear right now for the Shocker program, and it's like a little bit of desperation because so much of this team is going to be gone. And we know that this team, when it plays well, is pretty good. Well, he mentioned they may have a few, waivers and things up their sleeve to keep some of it together. So it's not quite that way. And that's good, because I do think the arrow of the program is going back in the right direction, as long as they keep playing inspired basketball like this. And as long as they don't have, look, if they have a bad conference tournament exit, if they lose to somebody in the conference tournament that they shouldn't lose to, that's going to be a really disappointing end to this. I think most of us don't think that's likely, right? I think that's pretty unlikely that they would come out and lay an egg in that conference tournament. So it's good to see that Harlan Beverly can give them offense when they're not getting it down low. And then in another game, it'll come down low and it won't come from the guard. Like, that versatility matters. I think it's good to see. I think it kudos to the coaching staff for being able to keep everybody bought in through some pretty choppy waters this year.
Well, and the choppy water started in the game last night. I mean, they were down 16-4 to kick things off,
just fumbled the ball away.
It would have been, again, really easy, to be like, yep, not our night, not gonna happen. And then, North Texas could have, they're talented enough for sure that they could have kept Wichita State at an arm's length the entire game after building a 12-point lead early on. And again, credit to Wichita State for battling back, and showing that resilience and, being able to cut the deficit to 3 by halftime, take the lead at a couple of different times in the second half. At one point, I think they had, a 4-point lead in the second half, Wichita State did. And then, at that point, North Texas comes storming back. It shows their DNA as a team that could absolutely win the American Conference tournament. And, potentially, like, they would be, in my opinion, a sleeper pick to, potentially win a game, maybe two, in the NCAA tournament. They're a really talented team. So that shows that, that resilience is there, for at least for Wichita State, for never letting the game get out of hand, even after falling behind by 12 early on. That's going to happen from time to time. You've got to, again, make sure it doesn't happen in the next two games, but you get into the conference tournament, you get into potentially some kind of postseason game, whatever that looks like for Wichita State. You're playing talented teams, and you could fall behind by double digits early on. You've got to be able to find a way to battle back, and that's what the Shockers were able to do last night.
The deck is stacked a little against the Shockers every time out, like it is for KU, in the sense that they just don't shoot the three well. And so, like, knowing that's not going to be a part of the offense, or being 80% confident that that's not going to be a part of the offense, that does put you behind the eight ball a little bit. They've had a couple of games this year where they've shot it well. Great. Like, heat check it or whatever, but they didn't even mess with it yesterday. It was like, nope, not going to happen for us today on the road in that tough environment. We're going to have to do it in other ways. And that's okay. Like, the Shockers MO is they get to the line, right? Like, they just attack the basket and take a bunch of free throws. What did they have? They had 24 free throws against UAB last night. They had 19. They hit 16 of them. That's the thing. Hit a high percentage of free throws. Like, how elementary is that? But man, is that ring true for Wichita State, because they're not going to get three. Like, you're not getting easy offense. Wichita State and KU they're similar when they're playing their game. They're going to play really well defensively. They're probably going to be better than you down low, right? And we're talking relative to who they're playing, right? Big 12, AAC, all that stuff. But they're going to be better than you down low, most likely, in every game that they play, but they don't shoot any threes. So they got to hit all their free throws. They've got to get to the line, and they can't turn the ball over. Wichita State's been pretty good at all of those things. KU, all of them except turnovers. They've not taken care of the basketball enough. But it's pretty similar, right? The paths are pretty similar for both of these teams.
Yeah, they are. They don't have Wichita State doesn't have quite as dominant of play down low. I mean, they don't have a Hunter Dickinson.
No, but compared to the AAC, they do.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And having guys like Quincy Ballard and Corey Washington, like, yeah, that is an advantage, for you against conference opponents for sure. I think that, one other thing to keep in mind is that we saw Justin Hill back in the lineup for Wichita State last night. And, so he looked to me like he was fine. Looked to me, I don't know if I would call it 100%, because I don't know, but he looked to be healthy. Yeah. And so you now got your, basically full complement of your roster back and ready to go for the final two games of the regular season and into the conference tournament. So, hopefully it's full steam ahead. Hopefully they can make a statement against, these two teams this week. And then who knows, make a run in the conference tournament. They've shown that they, again, can beat the best teams in the conference. You've got to shake off the last two games. You've got to go and try to finish at 500 in conference play. And like, let's appreciate it for what it is. If they can beat Rice and Tulsa in the final two and get back to 500, even though you're not over 500 in conference play, you had an opportunity to get that way, all of that. I guess a moral victory would be, remember, you started the conference season 1-7, and then from there you finish what's that, 8-2, in your final conference games at that point. Like, that's a great stretch to end things for Wichita State if they can get these next two done.
Yeah, it's going to be hard in totality to look at it and say it wasn't disappointing that they finished 7th in the American this year, right? Like, because they're not the 7th best team, and you can't ignore that, but you have to look at it in context. I agree with you of how rocky that start was. I would say Wichita State's, somewhere 4th or 5th best team in the league, certainly behind Memphis, North Texas, and I think UAB, and then right there. And that's kind of where they'll end up in the standings. But if they don't win the next two, then 7th, you're going to have to even make sure you get to that point. So let me ask you this question with a couple minutes to go. Which of these two teams, and I know it's relative to the competition that they play, is more likely to win its conference tournament, Wichita State or KU?
Wichita State. I would absolutely say Wichita State.
Based on the
because
competition that they'll
based on the
have to get through.
competition and based on the recent history of what Wichita State has been able to do against teams like Memphis and Tulane. And, of course, it wasn't like they were blown out by either UAB or North Texas. So, yeah, I mean, I would say Wichita State has a better opportunity to go and steal one in the conference tournament.
Yeah, I think I agree, but it's interesting that KU, if you think like I do, that like I think Houston and Tech are the two best teams in the Big 12 right now. KU had opportunities to beat them both too. It's kind of the same thing. Now, I think the difference will be who KU might have to play in the first 2 rounds versus who Wichita State might have to play in the first 2 rounds, right? Like a first round game against TCU or West Virginia, like that ain't no easy. Whereas Wichita State might end up getting to play, I don't know, UTSA. All right, we'll come back. Hour number 2, we're going to have some NFL talk, including our Chiefs Insider Felix Johnson in the next hour. Stick around. More Sports Daily right after this.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of... It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now. 831001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems.
Why are they hiding it?
And real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, Tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospitalized from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albrock and Tommy Kester.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is another hour of Sports Daily, and we are glad to be with you here on KFH. Thanks for being here. If you want to win some HTO, let's start the hour off that way. We'll get you a free iced tea. More than 26 flavors to choose from. You can get one for free right now at either East or West Wichita or down in Derby. All you got to do is text the keyword T to the short code 20357. That's T to 20357. You can enter once per day. Message and data rates apply. Good luck, everybody, on that. As we make our way into hour number 2, Felix Johnson joins us here pretty quick as we'll go through the latest for the Kansas City Chiefs. What are they going to do now with Trey Smith? It's been an interesting week. We know Travis Kelce's back. We assume Trey Smith is back. I don't think they'll be trading Trey Smith, although we'll see what Felix thinks about that. So they still have to solve left tackle. A couple little items we'll get to in just a second with that. Real quick, as we put a somewhat of a bow on college basketball, at least for a little bit. See what Cooper Flagg did last night, Tommy?
Oh, he had a great game. I mean, Duke is fantastic.
Man, they are killing people.
Yeah.
Too. Like, it's not even close. Boy, I hope they don't give us another year of what we've seen out of UConn the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Where they're just so dominant and you're like, yeah, I don't think
that's going to be. There are enough elite teams. I mean, because you looked at, a couple of years ago with UConn, they were head and shoulders better than everybody else. And you could tell that, like, objectively, and just they passed the eye test. And you're like, yep, nobody else is nearly as good as they are. There are 4 or 5 other teams. I mean, the team that played Kansas last night is one of them that are that good. I don't think Duke is going to be able to run over everybody in March Madness. Because I mean, who did Duke play last night? Wake Forest. Like,
Wake Forest is a 20-win team, and they were like
20, but they're not favorites. They're not Auburn. They're not Houston.
Well, no, I know, but they were like 20-point favorites in that game. But I was with Brandon Zenner in the office, and he was like, yeah, can they cover 20 and a half? It's like 20 and a half. We just college basketball. Nobody's favored like that. He's like, no, that's the line tonight. I'm like, against Wake? Like, Wake's probably a tournament team. They're at least on the bubble. Damn. Okay. And then, of course, they come out and they wreck shop. Cooper Flagg's stud.
It's one of the rare times, by the way, with a guy like Cooper Flagg that you get all of this hype coming out of high school, going into college, and he actually lives up to it. Like, that doesn't happen a ton.
Not very often.
That dude is going to be a difference maker in the NBA. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he's certainly a difference maker in college. He's certainly the best player in the country. Although whether it translates, I don't know. In a softer class, it's definitely he's going to be the top guy. How could he not be? All right. Before we get Felix in, a couple of Chiefs things. Yesterday, Tommy, I thought were interesting. One, Donovan Smith. Did you see the chatter with Donovan Smith yesterday? So
I did
apparently
not. No.
Donovan Smith, and I bring this up to you especially because you asked this question about 1,000 times. I guess he was hurt all year. And so he is just now like recovered or almost recovered from the injury that basically kept him out the entire year last year.
What did he have?
I'll have to pull it back up. But it's interesting that because we asked a billion times why. Okay, so Forbes reported that he's healthy and wants to play again, and then hip injury is what it sounds like according to the chatter on social. So he had a hip injury that kept him out last season, basically, and Matt Derrick reporting that they checked on Smith throughout the season, but he wasn't ready to play. Now he is.
That's weird. But real quick, that's weird because there were a couple of times where Smith was really like cryptic on social media.
I know.
He was waiting for a phone call from the Chiefs that he never got. And that's where all the speculation came from. Like, why are they not calling him? He clearly wants to play.
Yep.
Like, just come out and say you're injured, dude. Like that's weird to me.
Well, maybe he didn't agree on the level of that injury either. Maybe he thought he was ready and they quickly got a physical and maybe they took it far enough. Who knows? But remember, they won a Super Bowl with him and he was effective, right? He's at least as effective as DJ Humphries, if not a little more.
Oh, he's better than DJ Humphries. He's not great, but he's serviceable.
But he might not be better with a hip injury, is what I mean.
Right. I mean, but I'm talking like fully recovered next season. Like
when you weigh 350 pounds, do you ever fully recover from a hip injury? So and Smith and Humphries had his own injury recovery thing he was dealing with.
We barely saw Humphries last year.
Those are two options here as we're going to bring this question up to Felix Johnson, and it becomes a more and more difficult question. Like, okay, maybe Smith gives him another option. So here's the other part of the news that kind of came out yesterday. It's not really news yesterday, but I also saw this on social. The Chiefs right now have more money committed to offensive line than any team in football, and they still don't have their left tackle.
Huh.
So between Trey Smith and Creed Humphries, now Jawan Taylor's bad contract is a part of that, obviously, but it shouldn't surprise us. They have four offensive linemen of their 5 starters who are getting paid between Tooney, Creed, Trey Smith, and then Jawan Taylor on the right side. Most teams don't have 4 out of 5 linemen paid that way. And they're going to have to do it again with whatever they do at left tackle. So,
but that's the crazy thing about it is that, wouldn't you say that the one position that they don't have somebody paid is the most impactful out of all 5 positions on that line?
I would. And I think it was our colleague up in Kansas City, Carrington Harrison, who pointed out, like, that's really interesting number when you consider they didn't have a running back average more than 3.5 yards carry last year.
Yeah.
Now, I think that had more to do with who was available in the backfield most of the time last year than the offensive line. But it's not like it's been a lack of effort for the Chiefs to ultimately fix the thing that's been different levels of a problem since the Tampa Bay Super Bowl loss, right? Like, so we'll see how they. But again, it all points to this conundrum of what kind of resources can they actually even throw at left tackle at this point, which is why I continue to. Felix thinks they like these 2 young tackles. Maybe it is going to be a combination of those 2 and either Smith or DJ Humphries again, because they don't have a choice. Now, that doesn't mean they can't draft another one. Obviously, I think they would do that. But at least as far as like what you're counting on to start the year, I don't know what else they're going to be able to do. They could free up the money to go get Ronnie Stanley. They still can. But are you really going to invest that much money on the line?
As soon as they tagged Trey Smith, and I agree with you, I don't think they're going to trade Trey Smith. As soon as they tagged him, I felt like that intention was to get him signed long-term. And that's fine. And I like Trey Smith a lot. But as soon as they did that, my first thought was, okay, there goes any chance that they're going to make a major splash in free agency or via trade to acquire a left tackle in this offseason. What I do think, and I've mentioned this, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If the Chiefs trot out exactly the same offensive line in 2025 that they had in 2024, that's a big swing and a miss, in my opinion. They need to do something. And if that something is re-signing a healthy Donovan Smith, okay, like that's not great. It's not ideal. It's not amazing. But if you view it in the context of what it probably is, and that's like a stopgap or a bridge player to next season, or to allow Suamataia or Wanye Morris to develop, or maybe even somebody else they draft to develop in 2026, okay, I can probably get behind that. Donovan Smith in 2023, that's the last really time that we saw him play. Again, he wasn't phenomenal, but he wasn't the dumpster fire that we saw at left tackle last season. He allowed 2 sacks in the games that he played with the Chiefs in 2023. You know, he was penalized, a handful of times, but not at the extent that we saw Jawan Taylor get penalized. So I'm okay with that. I would be fine with them signing Donovan Smith with the understanding that, again, this is a stopgap until we can figure out what we're going to do for 2026.
He's at least equivalent to having to move Joe Thuney over, but allows you to not have the hole at left.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's better than equivalent because you don't have that hole at left.
Let me ask you if you're comfortable with this. And again, this is a loaded question because we don't know how it'll play out. But are you comfortable if their approach is to just draft a tackle at 31?
No.
So it's free agency or bust for you.
Honestly, it's Donovan Smith. I mean, I think because, again, I don't think they don't have the resources to commit. I don't think they're going to try to free up the money to commit to go make an impactful move like that. So as long as Smith is healthy and that I don't know, I'm okay with that.
What if it's a move up in the first round to go get one of the top?
Yeah. I don't want them to use pick 31 when they've already got Morris and Suamataia.
Do you remember how long it took Eric Fisher to find his groove? I was obviously not as locked in on the Chiefs at that stage of my life. How long did it take him? Because I remember it was a bit rocky at the start.
Did I don't know how his groove. No, I'm kidding. No, he did. It took him a minute.
It took a while, right? Like it took several years. So let that sit and simmer.
He was drafted in 2013. He didn't become a Pro Bowler until 2018. So, okay. It was at least 5 years for him to actually perform at that level.
Soak on that with the other 2 young players. Let's bring in Felix Johnson here, see what he thinks about all the latest on the Chiefs. There's a lot to catch up on, and what do we do moving forward? That's next on Sports Daily.
"66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust." Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite, or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say, drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issue a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Is on KFH.
It is Sports Daily. Jay Ballbrock, Tommy Castor, Felix Johnson here with you, our Chiefs Insider joining us.
And now, digging deeper with the teams you follow, it's another Sports Daily Insider interview on KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody. How much of that made it, Tommy, over the air, and how much? I know our video stream just felt really disjointed.
No, everything made it. Max is laughing. He did that on purpose. He just wanted to make you look foolish.
My screen flashed about 3 times at me, and so I was like, all right, we're going. And then, of course, there it is, Felix. You get your fancy announcer voice guy intro. You can find Felix at Field Vision, Arrowhead Addict, on X, at Felix R. Johnson. Welcome. It's been an eventful week since the last time we talked, Felix, as it pertains to the Chiefs. News items, significant ones, not just fake ones because it's the off season. Significant news items for the Chiefs dropping right and left.
Absolutely. I think with Trey Smith, it's been really interesting. He's the highest paid guard of all time now. I think that's the very interesting part about it. I mean, like the Chiefs moving forward, the only thing they can really afford to do is pay Patrick Mahomes and pay his protection, and then keep drafting defensively and weapons wise, and then see where they're at here in a couple years. And because they're in that win now mode, like they have been for the last near decade at this point. So like it is really interesting to see where the Chiefs are going to be spending their money, and it's going to be in the non-sexy positions like offensive line. Well, I mean, I think it's sexy. It's the best position of all time. It's most important if you ask me. So
yeah, the Trey Smith franchise tagging news kind of dropped like a bombshell, I felt like, because I certainly didn't anticipate that they would use the franchise tag at all, much less on Trey Smith. And I know that, the salary cap has increased, for all the teams in the NFL and all of that. How surprised were you when that news came down that they were tagging him?
Not exactly. I mean, he's honestly probably they're going to be their most sought at would have been their most sought after free agent. Him and Nick Bolton would have been hitting the market at the same time, and it would have been a little bit of a toss up. But you see his highlight reels from the last few years. It's like, yeah, you probably want to go with a guy like Trey Smith, especially with teams like the Chicago Bears on them looking for guys like him to protect their quarterback of the future. So them using the franchise tag on either Bolton or Smith, I'm not shocked that they use it on Smith in that scenario. But it's not terribly shocking, to me at least, in that they're trying to protect Patrick Mahomes, their most valuable asset. You might as well put as much money possible in his protection, therefore.
Well, don't you think too, like if they're going to have to make sacrifices, sorry, Spags, but you might have to start over with a bunch of young players, because if you're choosing the protection of Mahomes versus a great defense, you got to choose the protection of Mahomes every time. I mean, have to. You just does that give them the best chance of winning? That time will tell on that. I guess that depends on the draft, but you have to choose Mahomes and you have to choose his protection.
Right. I think you're absolutely right. We've seen the Chiefs go out and draft good defensive backs year in, like the last few years, like obviously 2022, the year right before they beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they drafted basically their entire secondary. And so we've seen Brett Veach go out and I was doing some research this weekend. He played wide receiver, and I think him playing wide receiver kind of gives him a different viewpoint on what a defensive back is, just because you look across the field every day against them. So you kind of have a little bit of a different opinion than what some other people might as a general manager. So I think that we can see the Chiefs moving in the younger defensive trend like they have in the last few years, because historically defenses play better when they're younger. The Seahawks worked better when they were younger. The Ravens worked better when they were younger. The 49ers, even, they worked better when they were younger. So I think that it's important to keep the defense young where you can, but keeping Trent McDuffie as a cornerstone, keeping obviously Chris Jones, giving him that big contract last year, but then staying young and hungry in other spots is going to be what's important to keep this team winning and in the winning conversation moving forward.
Let's talk left tackle a little bit, Felix. We talked about this in our previous segment, that there was some reporting that came out that the reason why Donovan Smith didn't end up getting re-signed by the Chiefs in 2024 was that he was battling a hip injury the entire season, and that multiple teams checked in on him. He wanted to come back and play for the Chiefs, but he was never fully healthy enough to be able to do that. And there is speculation that could be potentially at least a stopgap option for Kansas City at left tackle. We're getting ready to open up the new league year and free agency and all of that next week. We've talked about Ronnie Stanley. We've talked about other free agent left tackles out there, but especially with the franchise tagging of Trey Smith, it doesn't seem like there are many resources available for the Chiefs to make a huge splash at left tackle. What do you think the chances are that they acquire anybody, whether that's Donovan Smith or otherwise, at left tackle this offseason?
The Donovan Smith thing was kind of interesting because he was publicly saying on Twitter and whatever, it's like, I want to play. And obviously the Chiefs have a hole at the position he filled, probably the best since, Orlando Brown Jr. So it was kind of weird, like, bring him back. He's like $5 million, just pull him off the shelf. It's no big deal. And the Chiefs just never did. So it did feel like there was something going on. Didn't know that it was an injury. But the tough part with a player like Donovan Smith, in his last year with the Chiefs, he had a neck injury. A hip injury kept him out this year. He's only getting older. I bet you another injury is going to keep him out for X amount of games, and then you're in another situation without your left tackle who's been starting for you for, 5 games at that point. And so it would be another issue that they would run into with an older left tackle. Again, you're not going to find a 25-year-old left tackle for $5 million that's going to be a solid one and starting for you week in and week out, because those guys are also making $30 million nowadays. And so it's a tough situation to be in. And so we talk about it all the time, or we've talked about it last few weeks. They're in the spot now where they just have to develop that position, and they don't have the money to spend anywhere else unless they're going to restructure Patrick Mahomes more than likely. They're going to restructure Travis Kelce more than likely. Chris Jones, I'm sure there's a way to do that within his deal. Right now, it's looking like they're going to have to figure it out in-house or incredibly cheap.
So that's the problem, right? What are they supposed to do? Are you comfortable with, let's call it Smith or Humphreys, the two young guys, and nothing else? Or is that not enough for you? Because I think for most fans, it's not enough, because we saw the way last year played out. So if it's not enough, is then taking someone at 31 or taking somebody in the second or third round again going to be enough? Or do they sell out and just go move up to try to get one of the top tackles?
And it honestly depends on who's there at 31, because the Rams there's a few teams drafting right ahead of the Chiefs that also need tackles. So I've seen Josh Connerly go to the Chiefs at 31 in like 4 or 5 mock drafts. But then as the combine passed through, Josh Connerly was going a little earlier in drafts. So I think it's just going to become take the best player available. It might be Luther Burden. It might be whomever is honestly, I don't even know if the Chiefs even use that pick, because it's who are they going to take to fit this team at the spot they need it, at the spot that they need it to. It might be a tackle, but again, they've drafted offensive linemen almost every year. Since Creed Humphrey's has been the only one that's worked out. Trey Smith obviously being the 6th round pick, but Darian Kennard, Wanye Morris, Kingsley Suamataia now. These are 3 tackles now that haven't either fit into the roster, or when they played haven't been good enough for you quite yet. So is the answer the draft? Is just going to be another body thrown at the problem? Maybe. Is it going to be developing from within? Hopefully, because those guys are already in-house. Can you afford another option? I don't know. So the best one option to me is developing, because that's the only one available.
Thursday was a really big day, Felix. Not only did the Chiefs tag Trey Smith, but also Travis Kelce confirms he's coming back for another season, confirming that with Pat McAfee, and then let the Chiefs know that he was going to be coming back. And Brett Veach had alluded to it earlier in the week as well. I'm not sure there were a ton of people out there that really, truly believed that he was going to walk away. But still, that hesitation was out there, and kind of gave you a little bit of pause about whether or not we would actually see Travis Kelce back. Do you anticipate that we'll see a shifting from an offensive game plan, or is it going to be primarily business as usual with Travis Kelce coming back next year?
Well, and I think that's where the pick 31 becomes interesting. If they get a tackle, it's going to be more kind of business as usual, trying to just run it back. And it won't be the worst thing in the world, because they went to the Super Bowl this year, and obviously we know that they can win the Super Bowl. Not the worst thing in the world. But I think the one thing that will excite fans is if Luther Burden is sitting there at 31, don't let him go to the second round. That's going to be something that excites some fans, and could restart your offense for something new and take some of the burden off of, literally and figuratively with Luther Burden, but take some of the burden off of Travis Kelce and to start to disperse it out. And obviously Rashee Rice is going to be back at some point next year. Xavier Worthy's going to be a further developed receiver, so you're going to be getting help there, but also spice it up a little bit, because Travis Kelce obviously is not the guy we knew him as in the previous, even at the beginning of the year, because he had a couple of moments where oh yeah, this is Travis Kelce. He's a little older, but no, this is our guy. He's not that guy anymore. We saw that by the Super Bowl. Now it's time to switch things up. And obviously you're not doing it with the play caller, do it with some of the players.
I know the answer to this question. It's because they've been so successful. But can we all pause, take a step back, and realize how much overreacting to the Chiefs we've collectively done over the last few weeks? This is the best team in the regular season, record-wise. They went back to a Super Bowl. They had a bad game in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bad game in the Super Bowl. Lots of teams have bad games in the Super Bowl. Travis Kelce was still a top 5 tight end last year. He's telling us he wants to get in the best shape of his career. That tells me he's going to redesign his body, probably to be more of a receiver than a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need Travis Kelce the blocker. They need Travis Kelce the receiver.
Right.
So go go get bendy like Tom Brady did all those
lose
years.
some weight, big dog. Yeah,
Right.
we can be real about it. He needs to lose some weight. He's
Well,
a
that's
little.
it.
He's a
Just
little
be. They
tough.
don't need him to be a blocker. Like
Right.
he's never had more freedom to go and just like redefine himself and just focus on that one thing. Let some other people block, right? Like that's not what they need from him. But at the end of the day, like all of these things and these challenges, they were still for 90% of the season, one of, if not the best teams in football last year.
Mm-hmm.
They should be better in a lot of spots than they were going into last year. It's not so bad, right? Like to me, they have one thing they've got to fix, and that's left tackle.
Right.
I think the defense will be it. Maybe the defense isn't as good, but the offense will be better. Like there is no question to me, the offense will be better next year, no matter what they do. It just will be.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right with that because Rashee Rice is coming back. I mean, whether it's 6 games in or 8 games in or whatever it is, and Xavier Worthy's going to be a little bit better because he got better from game 1 to game 20 or whatever it was. And depending on how Andy Reid decides to use him now, because he's got a year of seeing him in practice and other teams seeing him and trying to stop him. And these are the smartest coaches, at least Andy Reid's the smartest coach we've ever seen offensively post Bill Walsh. And so I think that you're absolutely right in believing that the Chiefs are going to be better offensively. I would like to see a commitment to the run. Obviously, Travis Kelce isn't involved in that, but start running the football a little bit more. Again, alleviating the burden off of Travis Kelce, and why not, if you can, off of Patrick Mahomes throughout the regular season, because you don't need a game-winning field goal to win the game every single week. Have Patrick Mahomes do that for you 11 games instead of 15 games in the regular season, like he had to every single game this year. And I think running the football would get that done for you.
Well, a week from today, next time we have you on, we'll only be one day away from the new league year beginning in the NFL, free agency, all of that stuff being able to officially take shape in the next week or so. We've already seen at least one trade go down in the NFL with Deebo Samuel going to the Commanders. Do you anticipate that the Chiefs are going to be active leading up in this coming week, or is everything going to kind of quiet down at least this week leading into the new league year beginning?
It was kind of interesting when the Trey Smith stuff came down first, because I was like, L'Jarius Sneed, let's run it back. Let's trade the former 6th round pick for literally anything more valuable than what you picked him as, because you've won the trade, and we'll see what moves on from there. The Bears obviously were an option there, and there were some options that you could have traded Trey Smith to, but obviously the next sentence under Ian Rappaport or whomever's first report was the ultimate goal is a long-term deal. Obviously that makes sense. So I think it will quiet down over the next week because of that, because we've talked about all the reasons why Trey Smith and players like him, are important. I think the Chiefs are going to have to be a little bit more calculated when it comes to free agency this year, because not only have their issues been exposed, but they've been exposed in ways that a lot of teams can expose them, if that makes any sense. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this free agency and in the draft because of that.
This free agency is interesting because one of the national reporters with the combine coverage said there's still a decent thought that the Chiefs may go after Ronnie Stanley, and you don't even have to try that hard to do a couple restructures to find the money to do it. But then it goes into that point. They already have the highest paid offensive line in football. I don't know what, and Juwan Taylor will come off the books at some point.
Yeah.
But do you think they really have an appetite to also go after Ronnie Stanley now that they committed the money to Trey Smith?
That's the hard part, is that you're paying 4 out of your 5 guys. Joe Tooney's on his big deal from a handful of years ago. Creed Humphrey just got paid. Trey Smith has just got tagged. And then, like you said, Juwan Taylor's going to come off at some point, but not yet, quite yet. It's hard to say no to going out and getting Ronnie Stanley, because you know who you are. As like, you're this close to always winning the Super Bowl, and you're always just that one more player, and that's what it came down to in the Super Bowl. One more player, maybe Ronnie Stanley, maybe it's shuffling around a better Kingsley Suamataia by this time next year, or whatever the case may be. But to me, it's going to be really hard to pay another guy when you're already paying 4 out of 5, top of the market at that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do it. Last thing, Felix, Luther Burden, that your boomer bust. We were joking around with that.
I mean, it's the Chiefs never do what I want them to do because I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret and act like our city's not listening. I wanted Quentin Johnston, and he would have been a complete and utter bust.
Me too.
I wanted Keon Coleman, and then Xavier Worthy was better than him this year. So, like, my receiver
they ain't drafting
picks,
a receiver.
Probably not. But, like, let me let me just hope and dream that Luther Burden is going to become a Kansas City Chief.
No, that's not happening. I think it'll be defense. Felix, you've got some great stuff up on Field Vision, on your Havoc stuff. We'll get into that. We had too many news items to get through today, but go follow Felix at Felix R. Johnson on X to find all that great insight stuff. It's almost time to start breaking down the draft and pretending like we know things about offensive linemen from North Dakota State.
That's the thing that I learned at the Combine this week. Nobody knows anything. We're all just kind of figuring it out.
No, we never do, but we're going to pretend like dudes running around in their underwear is going to give us some insight to what makes a great football player.
4.38. Yep, he's good.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, it worked with Worthy. He's real fast. Let's bring him in.
That. So we'll.
All right, Felix, we appreciate it.
Absolutely appreciate you guys.
There goes Felix Johnson. Always great stuff. Go follow him on X. Always appreciate those insider reports there. I didn't expect that much news last week, Tommy, with the Chiefs.
There was a lot.
It has been a lot to digest. And again, not the fake stuff, right? Not the fake we're making up stories because it's March and we missed the NFL and all that. Like meaningful, impactful, crazy NFL stuff. We'll come back. More Sports Daily right after this.
66 counties, 4 regions, and 1 weather team that you can trust. Find Storm Team 12 every weekday at 5:30 on the KSCW. Whatever the weather and wherever you are, Storm Team 12 is zooming in, going zone by zone to give you a more in-depth look at the forecast and some science behind the storms so you know more. We're focusing on the forecast so you can focus on what's important to you. Storm Team 12 Weather Focus, 5:30 on the KSCW.
The future of television has arrived. Next Gen TV is here with stunning video, movie theater quality sound, enhanced voice clarity, and interactive features, all upgradable for the future. Learn more at watchnextgentv.com.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
It's the canvas of our imagination. They tell a story. Clouds affect the events of your day. Sometimes they growl, sometimes they inspire, but they're always the messengers of nature's mood, written in the sky. Storm Team 12 understands the language of clouds. We're dedicated to decoding their message so you know what to expect. Behind every cloud, there is a story waiting to be told. Trust Ross Jansen and Storm Team 12, alerting you first to the impact on your life.
When you need help, remember, you're not alone. We are here. We are neighbors. We are together. We are Kansas. We are 12 News.
They say,
What is GMFB overtime?
It's Peter, Jamie, Kyle, and Akbar breaking down the NFL 5 days a week.
It's okay to be excited.
It's this, that, and a whole lot of It's football for everyone.
Weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSCW.
Are following a breaking update.
Every day, all day, stream the stories that have you talking near and far.
Whoever is behind the wheel of this bus is not stopping.
From hundreds of local reporters and meteorologists spanning the country.
Chaos here this morning at the UW campus.
Search LNL for the all-new Local News Live streaming app.
Make yourself known now.
31001 in traffic pursuit.
Oh my God, here.
Investigate TV Plus begins with real people.
We investigate stories that impact you.
And inspire change every day.
Something is broken.
Real problems
Why are they hiding it?
and real solutions.
My daughter was dying in front of me.
What was your reaction when he said that?
Investigate TV Plus, weekdays at 3:30 p.m. on KWCH.
Sometimes people tell us, I don't get it, it's just tea. But let me tell you, we are so much more than just tea.
With 20 plus flavors of sweet and unsweet iced tea, the possibilities are endless. Come on in and try them all for free to find your favorite or get us on the go for your busy lifestyle. And don't miss happy hour every day. So the next time someone tells you it's just tea, tell them to come by and find out why we say drink tea, be happy.
Mornings are busy. We're here to make your mornings better. We report the stories that affect you.
3 more hospital lies from contaminated apple juice just a day after the FDA issued a recall.
We're here to make your mornings better.
Closing east and westbound lanes of K96 for repairs.
With 12 News, you're prepared for your whole day.
Scattered thunderstorms across the state into the afternoon.
Stay a step ahead with 12 News this morning on KWCH and KSCW.
Daily is on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. It is Jacob Albrecht and Tommy Castor with you. Thanks to Felix Johnson for hopping on. If you missed anything with Felix in that last segment, you can go back and listen on the Odyssey app anytime you'd like. Thanks to everybody who does listen to us in our podcasted form. We know there's a lot of you out there, and we appreciate it. If you're ever on there and you've got some thoughts, you can always leave us a voice message. You can do that by just hitting the little microphone there. Tommy, we always appreciate Crestview Country Club and their support. We're about a day away from a beer tasting event there at Crestview. I would imagine that gets a little more lowbrow than the wine tasting you were at recently. At least I hope so.
I hope it does. No, I read that they're showcasing like 4 or 5 local beers. I don't know from where. I guess we'll find out when we get there. But I'm a big fan of locally crafted beer, so we'll see what they bring to the table. It should be really good.
We're going to do that later this week. Just highlights a lot of the events that Crestview does, not just golf, although the golf's great. It's not just tennis, although the tennis is great. It's the events, and they're really ramping it up too. So give them a call, ask them about all the different kinds of memberships they have. You can hang with Tommy and I out there. We both have a great time out there at Crestview Country Club. There's no bad beer, is there? Like beer, I like local crafted beer. I like all the originals. Like I still like a Yellow Belly or a Buddy's. Like it doesn't matter. Like beer's beer. Beer's usually pretty good. I can't the IPAs and all that. Like I can't do that as much. Like I can do small amounts, but I know better than that. I need the see-through stuff.
I get it. The older that I get, the more it's kind of like drinking a loaf of bread a little bit. So I've got to make sure that, I pace myself a little bit.
It's the hangover effect. Let's be real. That's what it is. It's the hangover effect, and I just don't like those. And the other thing is, let's be real about it. I'm probably like, if I'm going into a beer drinking setting, like having a beer, it's not usually like I'd rather have 2 light beers, you know?
You'd rather have 10 light beers if you
Well,
could.
depending on I can't do that very much either. I can't like that has more dire consequences than it used to. My stamina is not the same in my older age, and it's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard one. It's a hard one to let go of. But you know, we got to do that. But it'll be fun.
Once you hit the age where you've got to take preventative ibuprofen, like before you even go out and have even a couple of beers, like that's where I'm at now. I just know about 30 minutes before I go, if I'm going to even have a beer or a cocktail, I probably better take at least a couple ibuprofen just to make sure I'm good the next morning.
Yeah, we're whatever. We're so lame, but we're going to be lame at a beer tasting later in the week. Looking forward to that. Let's go back to Wichita State KU just a little bit here. 2 losses last night. They're not encouraging losses. That's not the term. I can't think of the right term. Other than those were fun games last night, right? Despite the outcomes, those were 2 fun basketball games last night. They were being played at the same time. It did feel like March to me last night, and nothing happened to take away the fact that conference tournament time is going to be a blast this year, at least for these 2 teams. We'll see if it will be a blast for K-State if they can get Coleman Hawkins back. If they do, I think it will be for them also. But we've got teams here in disappointing seasons for all 3. Make no mistake about it. Been a disappointment for all 3 of the teams that we follow. However, they're playing their best basketball at the right time. Is this KU's best basketball?
Right now that they're playing right this second?
Yeah.
I would think that going back to the start of the season when they beat Duke
but
and
you
Michigan
got to
State-
understand, like Duke wasn't the same team when they beat them that Duke is now. I'm just trying to now I'm in my own head.
You're
like,
asking me if the preseason number 1 team in America is playing their best basketball right now? Because I don't think that that's accurate at all.
No, but like, and I don't think they are either. But were they when they beat Duke and Michigan State on neutral floors? Obviously, Duke is not the same team now than it was then. But was KU like what were they doing better then? Do you think? And this isn't like this. This is literally organically happening right now. So this isn't some crap or thing. But what do you think they were doing better at that point of the season than they're doing now?
I think that they were able to create offense better. They were, some of it is adjustment from the opponents. Like, I don't think that opponents really knew how to attack KU and how to combat them early in the season. So they had the benefit of the doubt then. Defenses know exactly how to attack Kansas.
But that's what I mean.
Out of their game. So, I mean, I don't think that I don't think they're playing their best basketball. I think that's obvious. I think that they were better able to create offense early on this season compared to now.
So I'm just looking at the Duke game. They turned it over way too many times. 16 turnovers in that game. Man, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess they were a better offensive team, but it wasn't by much. It was kind of the same. It was because once you hit Creighton, I mean, remember, they lost to Creighton and Mizzou. That seems like a lifetime ago. I don't know that they were playing any different. I mean, I guess we could look at the Michigan State and the Duke wins and say, yeah, they were better then. I just don't know how much of that's the competition because I don't know that all that much has changed. That's an interesting thought. If they're any better or worse just compared to themselves this year, because it was literally right after that when they lost those 2 games where it was like, what was that? Right? Creighton and Missouri. Like, whoa. What is this all about? I don't know that they're any better or worse than they were at that point. I know Duke is way better now than they were at that point. I know Michigan State's better now than they were at that point. I kind of think KU's the same. Maybe that's part of the problem is KU just hasn't gotten any better over the course of the season. Like that was their peak and they just haven't been able to get better than that if that was their peak. So then it's like, are they back to that point? Are they as good as they were when they played Duke? I mean, they're kind of the same, honestly. They made more threes in that game than they typically do, I guess, but that's an outlier. That's just kind of what they are. And now everybody else has gotten better, and maybe they haven't gotten better, but at least they're back to what they were. I guess is the reason I asked that to begin
How,
with.
how sad is that? That's the
Sad.
takeaway. That's
Very
the
sad.
conversation. At least they're back to what they were.
Yeah, it's very
like
sad.
every other team is ascending.
Yep.
And at least they've pulled themselves out of the gutter. And they're back to what they were. Like that.
I think that's a part of the. I think that's a part of the problem is they haven't gotten any better over the course of this season. It's not even that they're like playing better or worse in any individual game. Like they just collectively are not any better than they were in November. And that's a big problem. And I also don't know if they can get any better. I don't know where it's going to come from. Right? Like what could they possibly do now that makes them better? Like what is still out there for them to grab? Outside of maybe giving Diggy Coit a bigger role and making themselves a little better offensively.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I mean, I think that it's you're consistently trying to will them to create more offense and to have better guard play and to shoot more threes, make more threes, all of that. They're not going to do that. And so I'm past the point of like clasping my hands together, praying that they'll make more threes or praying that we're going to see the guards be more consistent. I just don't think that's going to happen.
So they're not going to do that. So then it goes back to how far can their elite level defense take them? It's not going to take them far if they turn the ball over 20 times. But what if it's more like 10 times, right? Like if you get the combination, it's almost like you get the combination of what they had against, Tech and Houston, right? You don't turn the ball over and you play great defense. How far could that take them? If I told you right now, and I know this is a big ask because they haven't been able to consistently do this, but I told you right now, you'll get in the NCAA tournament, you'll get Kansas's best defense and they'll limit turnovers to 12 or fewer in every game they play. How many wins do you think that might lead to?
In the tournament? 2.
Yeah. And then and then you get to
maybe 2 max. Like a second weekend team, a Sweet 16 team. I think that's probably their ceiling.
That feels like a win to me this year.
Sure.
Not obviously not with preseason expectations, but
so let me pose this to you then. You posed a question to me. Let me ask you one then. If you are evaluating the Jayhawks and they're playing in the NCAA tournament, and I don't care who the opponent is, I don't care what seed they are, I don't care what conference they come from, there's 3 minutes left, and it's a 1-possession game, either direction. You taking Kansas to win that game? I don't care who it's against. Like, it's a 1-possession game. 3 minutes left. Does Kansas win the game? Because I would say probably not.
I think 3 minutes is too much time. I'll take it down to like a minute and a half, and I agree. Yeah. 3 minutes, they could still build a lead out a little bit. But yeah, minute and a half, your point is good. And if you do, who's got the ball? Shrink it down even more. Down 1,
right?
Less than 30 seconds. Who are you even giving the ball to?
I don't know.
That's
Coit. I guess maybe Coit.
Maybe.
But he might not even be on the court for a clutch situation.
That he's
I
the
don't
answer.
First off, it'd probably end up a turnover. It doesn't matter who's going to have it. You would probably turn the ball over.
Yeah.
But then let's say that they do get a shot off. It's probably Zeke Mayo, and it's probably a way bad shot.
I don't know, man. Yeah, Zeke has failed at that too many times. I don't even think you can do that. It's almost like give the ball to Rylan Griffin and let him drive the basket and crash the boards.
Griffin's been abysmal too lately.
I know, but I think at least he's like athletically explosive enough that you give him a chance if he goes at the rim. Like back in time, you would have said DeJuan Harris attack the rim, right? Like go get DeJuan Harris in there, attack the rim, and try to get to the free throw line and crash the boards. But they have to be able to not put themselves in those positions. All of this is why I think the challenge is there. I've got one more hypothetical for you. KU makes the Sweet 16. No, let's take it one further. KU makes the Elite 8. Does that wash away the bad taste of a bad regular season?
Yeah, I think so. I think it does. If they can make it that far, if they can get to, I think even getting to the second weekend, if they can show they can win 2 games in the tournament, I don't know if it washes it away entirely, but at least you're like, okay, they were able to get something done at least this season.
They've had a lot of really great regular seasons where they didn't get to the second weekend, right? Like, so I want to so badly take them to the Sweet 16. I cannot wait for the bracket just to look at it and say, yes, there is their path. They absolutely have a path to the Sweet 16. I cannot wait because I think they can. And I want them to. Because I don't like the Bills self-heat, quite frankly. And I would love to have that redemption. Be a great story. If they can do something like that. But we'll find out with the brackets. Again, the bracketologists are all over the map with KU. They're going to be fascinating because their net is still so high on where it is that they get seeded. It will be why, especially if they beat Arizona and win a game or two in the Big 12 tournament. Like their seeding is everywhere. Like it's all over the map. Well, who knows? It doesn't really matter, but would you rather be, I don't know. That's a hard game to play too. I mean, you don't want to be an 8 or a 9 because then you got to play a 1 in the second round. Like you don't want to do that. If they can stay as a 6 or a 7, I think their chances are much better than obviously if they're an 8 or a 9 because you do get the round of 32 matchup against a 1 seed, and the 1 seeds look solid this year. Like get it up to a 6 where you could play a 3. That's probably the path, right? But they're going to need a couple of big wins here starting against Arizona. We'll have more on that game later in the week. Plenty still to come to digest it all and talk it. We gotta finish the regular season. All right, we got one more segment for you here on Sports Daily. Don't go away. We're coming right back.
Attention!